If you're on the phone. Okay. How'd that feel, buddy?
Well, there was a little bit part where I was like, oh boy, am I cueing them at the right spot? But overall, it felt really good.
Did he miss any of the cues? Did he give any cues in any wrong places? Like, did he throw a false cue? Or did he forget to cue anybody who needed a cue? I don't think so. I think from the standpoint of the score knowledge and the getting around the ensemble and cueing, I think you nailed it. That's a really, really good way to start the Palestrina. I think you nailed it. That's great, buddy. That's awesome. Does anybody have any comments for Will? So now, this is something that I like to do as we go through the semester. You'll start to see yourselves in each other, or you'll start to understand what it is that we're after. And so it's important to me that it's not always me talking to you, but that this is a kind of a collaborative learning effort from the class. And now that you've been through the Dvorak and you have some understanding down, some basics down, I'm going to start at least occasionally asking for you to give feedback to each other. And I'll also chime in with some feedback. But does anybody have anything that they saw in Will's conducting that they would like to let him know that they saw? Go ahead, Amanda.
Can it be positive or negative?
Yes.
Okay, I really liked how you made eye contact with me when you were about to lead us in. I don't know if you did it with Elsa and Sarah, but you always made eye contact with me when you were ready to bring me in, and that was really helpful. So thank you for that.
Elsa and Sarah, did you feel that he made eye contact with you, or was he just focused on one person?
No, I felt like he gave focus to the section.
To the section and not the person. That's great. That's what you want. Is not to, unless you're cueing a solo, you don't want it to necessarily be like you always look to the one violinist, or you always look to the first flute and the second flute never gets any attention from you. You want to try to, especially with a choir, you want to try to look sectionally and not laser focused at a single person. So that's really good that you accomplished that. Anybody else? Lindsay, go ahead.
I liked how even though you arrived to us early, I was a little worried that it was going to be cued in wrong, but you came in strong enough to where I was like, oh, that's the downbeat, and that's where we come in, which I really liked, because I was like, okay, here it comes, and then you cued us perfectly.
Did anybody feel that awkwardness if he got there early and felt like he was hanging out staring at you for a little bit before the cue, even though he knew where the cue was and he didn't give you the cue early? Did anybody feel that little bit of awkwardness?
There's a
little bit. It comes with a lot of time and practice and kind of understanding. I hate the word feel, oh, there's a feel to it. But honestly, it's kind of something that you get used to and you sort of feel it out. Over a period of time, you start to understand what works and what doesn't work and what feels a little awkward. Did you feel a little awkward about it?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. So if you felt it, great. If you didn't, some conductors just look at people for longer. Everybody has a conducting character, a conducting personality, a way that they do it. And there's aspects of other conductors that I've studied with or that I admire in my conducting, but I don't think I look like anybody else when I conduct. I think I look like me. Just like a jazz musician might be influenced by, you know, a jazz trumpet player might be influenced by Clifford Brown and also influenced by Miles Davis, but you hope when they play they don't sound like Clifford Brown meets Miles Davis. You hope they sound like them. And there's influences there, and some conductors just get to cues a little earlier, and some conductors move more and some move less, and, you know. So if you didn't feel it, that's okay, but if you also felt it, then it's something to keep in mind, something to work on. You can, if that's the situation, then you can cling a little longer after the cue that you gave. You can move a little slower to the next cue, physically move through space a little slower to the next cue, to try to take up a little bit more of that time so you don't move quite so quick or so soon and then hang out, wait for the next cue. Okay? Somebody else had something, I think it was Emily. Yeah.
The only suggestion that I would give would be right at the beginning when you were doing the tenors. You did a really great job, but I would make, like, you breathed when we were supposed to, but I'd make it more obvious. So it's like a bigger, like, even open mouth, just like, and then start.
Yeah, it depends, but generally speaking, nose breaths don't work. For singing, I mean, singers don't breathe through their nose before they sing, and wind instrumentalists generally don't breathe through their nose before they play. And I'm not going to say I've never given a sniff breath to start, but generally speaking, mouth breaths are better because it's closer to the way that the ensemble breathes to make the sound, and also because when your lips part, your face opens up and becomes much more energetic. Even if it's not like big energy that you're going for, it becomes much more emotive. When your lips are closed, your face closes down. And when your lips part just a little bit, a lot of other muscles relax and suddenly your face becomes much more expressive. If you think about all of the big emotions that you have in your life, what facial expressions do you make with those emotions? Very rarely, unless it's like pouty or something, or your lips actually closed while you're making those big emotions. Most of the time your lips are apart. When you're surprised, or when you're joyful, or when you're particularly like sad or sorrowful or shocked, like all of those things are things where your lips are apart naturally. So it's because your face is much more emotive when your lips are apart even just a little bit. And since you're wearing, and we can see that since you're wearing the clear mask, and good on you for getting the clear mask, I love it. Yeah. Anybody else have anything for Will? We got to move on soon here, but I want to say a couple things to him. Okay. In the character of the cueing, you are. It's not bad. It's certainly not near as bad as I have seen from some other previous students in previous semesters who will remain nameless. But you're throwing the cues out at them just a little bit too much. We're getting kind of this effect, right? Beginning, C, sorry, tenor start, C. I don't think that's an A, it's a little flat, but if we can go with it. Ready? So we're getting this a little bit. Right, this kind of motion. I'm exaggerating, but it's there, as opposed to something that's a little more subtle like this. Right? I'm reaching out, but I'm not how about this? I'm giving a little bit of reach out towards them, but the gesture is still at the ictus point. I'm not making the ictus like this, because remember, the sagittal plane is a bad place to try to tell somebody when to play or sing. So I'm using the sagittal plane to let them know that it's time, but the gesture is still within this pattern. I feel like you're almost changing the pattern. So instead of this, C, we're going C. Make it C. It's still this gesture more than it is this gesture. Okay, would you try it? Yeah, I was a little flat. And do that. You're conducting like this a little bit. Try to keep that palm to the floor. Go again. Palm to the floor. Yeah. There you go, and you see the clarity of that gesture? Palm to the floor. Yeah. And so maybe part of why I feel like you're throwing these gestures a little bit is because of your left hand coming in and out of the picture, which you emailed me about, and that's like, I understand where you're coming from on that. But I don't think so. I think before, as you were bringing your left hand up, there was still this aspect to the gesture. And turning the palm to the floor helped a lot. Even here in your choral conducting, get in the habit of conducting with your right hand palm down, because I'm telling you, the next thing we do is put a baton in your hand, and if you can't consistently keep your palm to the floor, it's going to be a gigantic mess. It'll be so difficult to follow you. Palm to the floor is easier, it's just clearer and easier to follow, and still allows for expression. And if there is a special gesture where you want to turn your hand over or do something like this, absolutely. But if your standard method of conducting is with your right hand like this, that's just a lot less clear. If you're palm to the floor and then you do this for certain things, to shape a sound or something, I'm into that. I love that. But if your standard mode of conducting is palm up or is hand to the side, then this becomes a problem. This is the standard, and then you move out of it for special occasions. Cool? Cool. Very nice job, and very well prepared.